The burnout audit is in the show notes. It's a free 5-minute diagnostic that maps the specific patterns underneath your burnout, not the generic ones, the ones that are actually running your experience right now. If anything in today's episode resonates, it's worth 5 minutes. The link is in the show notes. I want to ask you something, and I want you to really sit with it before you answer. When you're exhausted, not just tired, actually exhausted, what do you do? Take a minute, really think about it. Do you push through? Do you add something to the list to try and feel more in control? Do you catastrophize quietly in your head about everything that still needs doing? Do you numb out with your phone or wine or Netflix or a few of those things all at once? Not because you're enjoying it, but because you need to stop thinking for 10 minutes. Do you feel guilty about being exhausted in the first place? Like the exhaustion is evidence of something being wrong with you. Here's what I want you to notice. Whatever you just answered, that's not a response you chose. That's a pattern, a well-worn, deeply grooved, completely automatic pattern that your nervous system runs when the load gets too high. And understanding that pattern, not managing it and not pushing through it, actually understanding where it came from and why it won't stop on its own is the beginning of something genuinely different. That's what today's about. So welcome back to Unapologetic Edge. I'm Philippa Scott. For the past episodes, we've been in the compliance and leadership science territory, the legislation, the hazard categories, the nervous system mechanics of leadership under pressure. If you've been listening from the beginning, you have a comprehensive picture of what psychosocial risk looks like from the outside, from the organizational perspective. From here, we go inside, because the most important thing I've learned in 2 decades of working with people and from my own experience of burning out twice and rebuilding twice is this. You cannot manage your way out of a pattern. You can only understand your way through it. And most of us have never been given the framework to understand what's actually running. And then there's a whole nother thing if we want to resolve it. So let me tell you what I mean when I say pattern, because the word gets used in a lot of ways that don't quite capture what I'm describing. A pattern, in the sense I'm using it, is an automatic response sequence that your nervous system runs when it detects certain conditions. It's not a habit, though it can look like one. It's not a personality trait, though it can feel like one. It is a learned survival response, something your system figured out, usually very early in your life, that kept you safe or kept you loved or kept you in control in conditions that felt threatening. The response worked, and that's why it stayed. The problem is that the conditions changed, but the response doesn't update. You are no longer in an environment where the pattern is necessary, but your nervous system doesn't know that. It's still running the same sequence it learned at 7 or 12 or 22, because that sequence was the solution to a very real problem, and nobody told it the problem was over. But when the load gets high at work, you don't just feel tired. You feel a specific kind of tired that activates your specific pattern. And the pattern runs automatically without your conscious permission. And then you wonder why you can't just stop doing the thing you know isn't helping. That is not weakness. That's how nervous systems work. You're not repeating patterns because you lack discipline or self-awareness. You are repeating them because your nervous system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Run that solution that worked. I want to name some of the patterns I see most frequently in the professional people I work with, because I find that naming them precisely and giving them a shape and a language in itself is a form of relief often. Achievement addiction. This is the pattern that says your value is contingent on your output. I had this one. That rest is earned, not inherent. That if you slow down, something terrible will happen. you will be found out. You will lose your position. You will become irrelevant. The woman running this pattern or the man running this pattern is almost never not working. And when they're not working, they're thinking about work or feeling guilty about not working, which is its own kind of work. Then there's people pleasing, not kindness, not generosity, the compulsive need to manage other people's emotional states before your own, to anticipate what is needed and provide it before being asked, to say yes before checking whether you have the capacity to honor it. This pattern feels like being good at relationships. It's actually chronic self-abandonment at the speed of a smile. Hypervigilance. The nervous system is always scanning, always preparing, always anticipating the thing that could go wrong so it can be managed before it becomes a problem. From the outside, that looks like conscientiousness. From the inside, it is exhausting because the scanning never stops. There is no off switch. The body is always at a low level alert. Then there's control, the need to manage outcomes, environments, other people's behavior as a way of managing internal anxiety. This pattern is almost always present in high performers because control and performance look nearly identical from the outside. The difference is what happens when control is not possible. The high performer adapts. The control pattern dysregulates. Then collapse, the pattern that follows sustained high output functioning, the all or nothing, the sprint and crash. The weeks of superhuman productivity followed by days of complete shutdown when you can't make yourself do the most basic things. If you recognize this one, and I do, you probably feel enormous shame about it. You shouldn't. It is a nervous system doing the only thing it can when the tank runs completely dry. I want to ask you, which one of those resonated? Not which one you think applies to you in theory. Which one did you feel in your body as you were listening? That one. That's where we start. Here is the piece that I don't think gets said clearly enough. These patterns are not just making your personal life harder. They are shaping every professional relationship you have, every decision you make under pressure, every interaction with your team, your peers, your senior leaders, and so on. The achievement addiction is why you cannot delegate without anxiety. The people pleasing is why you agree to things in meetings and then quietly resent them. The hypervigilance is why you read threat into feedback when it wasn't intended to be threatening. The control pattern is why you struggle to trust your team even when they are completely capable. The collapse is why your output is brilliant but inconsistent, and why you live in terror of someone noticing the inconsistencies. These are not character flaws. They are survival strategies that were once genuinely useful and are now running the show in a context they were never designed for. And the reason they are so difficult to shift is not because you haven't tried hard enough. It's because trying harder is in itself a pattern. And you cannot think your way out of a nervous system response. You need something different from more information, more strategies, more tools. You need to understand what's actually running, and that understanding, when it lands, feels very different from anything you've ever tried before. Next week, we're going into the question that naturally follows this one. Why haven't the things that you've tried worked? Because you have tried things. Therapy, maybe coaching, mindfulness, books that have highlighted, books that you've highlighted and then put down and then picked up again. And the patterns came back. And I want to explain why specifically so you stop blaming yourself for it. Before you go, the burnout audit is in the show notes and it's free. It takes about 5 minutes. What it does specifically is map which of the patterns we talked about today are running highest in your system right now, not which ones you are thinking are there. which ones the data suggests are there. It's a different exercise and a much more useful one. Take it. I'll meet you exactly where you are. I'm Philippa Scott. This is Unapologetic Edge. I'll see you next week.